Have you ever noticed that you're a different person with every group you meet? Around one friend, you're funny. Around another, you're quiet. At work, you're careful. At home, you're someone else entirely. Sometimes when you're finally alone, you wonder which version is actually you. Not because you're pretending, not because you're fake, but because somewhere along the way, adapting became automatic. And what if the thing that helped you belong is also the thing that's making you disappear? Problem deep dive. Most people think identity is something solid, something fixed, a stable personality hidden underneath everything. But your daily experience often feels very different. You laugh at jokes you don't actually find funny. You agree with opinions you haven't really thought about. You adjust your tone, your interests, even your body language, depending on who's in front of you. At first it feels harmless. Social intelligence, good communication, it's being easy to get along with. But over time, something strange begins to happen. You stop asking what you think, and start asking what would fit best here. The problem isn't that you're changing. Human beings are supposed to adapt. The problem is when adaptation becomes your default identity, when every interaction becomes a performance. It's not a conscious performance, a survival performance. You become so skilled at reading the room that you stop reading yourself. Eventually, decisions become exhausting because there is no stable internal reference point. Relationships become confusing because different people know different versions of you. Even your self-talk changes. You begin wondering why you feel disconnected from your own life. And beneath all of this is a psychological pattern many people never recognize: the habit of attaching safety to acceptance. But where does that habit come from? Reframe. Here's something important. This doesn't mean you're broken, doesn't mean you're weak, and it certainly doesn't mean you've been living a lie. In many cases, this pattern began as an adaptation, very intelligent adaptation. Children quickly learn that different environments reward different behaviors. Some families reward quietness, some reward achievement, some reward being helpful, some reward never causing problems. Your brain notices these patterns, and like any efficient system, it learns, it adjusts, optimizes. The problem is that adaptations designed for belonging can continue long after they're needed. What once protected connection can eventually weaken self-connection. The question isn't why you've adapted. The question is why adaptation became stronger than authenticity. To understand that, we need to look at how the brain manages social survival. Psychological mechanism: your brain treats social belonging as a survival issue, not just emotionally, biologically. For most of human history, exclusion from the group carried real danger, so the brain evolved systems that constantly monitor social signals: approval, rejection, status, acceptance. Think of it like an internal radar, always scanning. It's always asking, who do I need to be right now? The more sensitive that radar becomes, the more your attention moves outward. Instead of listening inward, you're tracking external reactions. A useful mental model is this: imagine your identity as a compass, and social feedback as the weather. The weather should inform the journey, but the compass should guide it. When adaptation becomes excessive, the weather takes over. Every opinion becomes a new direction. Every reaction becomes a new destination. And eventually, the compass becomes difficult to hear. Neuroscience suggests that repeated social reinforcement strengthens certain behavioral pathways. The brain begins predicting which version of you receives the safest outcome. And because the brain prefers efficiency, those versions become automatic. Not because they're true, it's because they're familiar. Which means the path back isn't about finding some hidden real self. It's about rebuilding your connection to the internal signals you've learned to ignore. That starts with a few small shifts. Practical framework 1. Notice the moment you shapeshift before changing the behavior. Learn to see it. Psychologists call this increasing self-awareness. The brain cannot modify a pattern it doesn't recognize. For 1 week, ask yourself after conversations, what part of me showed up there? Not with judgment, just observation. Maybe you notice you're quieter around confident people, or more agreeable around authority figures. Awareness turns automatic behavior into visible behavior, and visible behavior becomes changeable. 2. Pause. Before immediate agreement, many people adapt through instant agreement. Not because they believe something, because disagreement feels uncomfortable. The brain often mistakes discomfort for danger. A brief pause interrupts that prediction. For example, instead of saying, "Yeah, I totally agree," try saying, "That's interesting. Let me think about that." That tiny pause gives your prefrontal cortex time to engage instead of running an old social habit. You're creating space for your own perspective. 3. Practice low-risk authenticity. Authenticity isn't a giant leap. It's exposure therapy. Small, manageable risks. Behavioral psychology shows that confidence grows after action, not before it. Start with low-stakes situations. Express a genuine preference. Share an honest opinion. Choose the restaurant you actually want. Each time nothing terrible happens, the brain updates its prediction. Authenticity becomes safer. 4. Build an identity through actions. Many people search for identity through thinking. But identity is built through repetition. The brain trusts evidence more than intentions. Ask, what values do I want my actions to reflect? Maybe it's curiosity, honesty, creativity. Then perform small behaviors that match those values. If you value creativity, create something. If you value honesty, tell one small truth you've been avoiding. Actions become evidence. Evidence becomes identity. 5. Spend time where no audience exists. Constant social input makes it difficult to hear yourself. Your brain needs periods without performance, without feedback, without adjustment. Take walks without posting them. Write thoughts nobody will read. Sit somewhere without needing to explain who you are. In those moments, the internal compass becomes easier to hear. Not because you found yourself, because the noise became quieter. Integration. Imagine again that compass and weather. The goal isn't to stop adapting. Healthy people adapt. Healthy people change. The goal is to remember which one is leading. Let the weather inform you. But don't let it define you every pause. Every honest preference. Every small act of authenticity. You're not creating a new identity. You're strengthening the signal of one that was already there. Not hidden. Just crowded out. It's quiet, empowering, close. Maybe you've spent years becoming exactly who others needed. Maybe that's why you're tired. Not because being yourself is difficult, because constantly becoming someone else is. The strange thing is that your sense of self doesn't disappear overnight. It fades gradually, one adjustment at a time. Which also means it returns the same way. One honest moment at a time. One choice at a time. One quiet act of listening at a time. And perhaps the goal was never to become a perfectly consistent person. Perhaps the goal is simply this: to remain connected to yourself. Even while the world keeps asking you to change.